Welcome back to the show. We are here with Corinna is back in the studio with me. Yay. Hi, Miss Corinna.
Hello, Echo. Could we have?
I know we have a special guest for you today. I'm super excited to finally have Miss Victoria on the show. A few things I want to say before we get started to our listeners around the world. First of all, thank you. We've reached some really major milestones in the last year. Specifically YouTube. Make sure that you are please subscribed and following our YouTube channel. It's the Bunny Chronicles podcast. It's long format video. So all the audio that you're listening to on your favorite listening platform, you can watch the full video content as well on our YouTube channel. So please do so. Hit that subscribe button, follow, and notifications if you like to do that. Also, our social media. Instagram, Bunny Chronicles Podcast, and our Facebook page. You can find us there at Bunny Chronicles Podcast. And Miss Corinna is Instagram at, what is that, Corinna Harney?
The Corinna Harney.
PMOY.
Yes.
And Echo Bunny 93. Okay, so we have one of our most favorite Playmate sisters in the studio with us today, Miss Victoria Fuller. Welcome to the show.
Hi, guys, finally.
Very talented and incredible artist.
Oh, yes. We're going to get into all of that. Victoria is just up to a lot of very, very cool things. So a little bit of background on Victoria. Miss January 1996. She also is the founder and creator of Rogue Bunnies. And I'm sure y'all have been hearing a lot about that. Yeah, Corinna's got her key on, and so does Miss Victoria. If you are not following Rogue Bunnies, please do so. What is the handle, Victoria?
Just the Rogue Bunnies on all socials, the Rogue Bunnies, ROGUE, and then roguebunnies.com. So anything, you can find us, everything you want to know on roguebunnies.com.
Okay. Awesome. So, Victoria, from the 90s, we are, I think, are all in agreement that the 90s was really a supreme decade, and there was a lot of incredible playmates that came out of that period, but it also was an interesting time within the dynamics and the workings, not only of the world, but of Playboy. There was a lot of major changes that happened, and we were all there and a part of it and able to witness the transitions from, the internet and evolving, and us learning how to create websites and membership-based websites, and Playboy integrating all of that into the company, which took a little bit of time. They're a little bit behind the 8 ball on that, but we can talk about that later. But yeah, so let's just get into it. I want to ask you first, were you discovered or did you submit?
I ultimately was discovered, but originally I had submitted my photos and I was turned down. And then I went to a cattle call with a girlfriend. I wasn't going for myself. She didn't want to go by herself. And Stephen Wada was doing the cattle call, and he kept saying, you should. And I didn't want to overshadow her because it was like her dream, even though it was mine too, but she invited me. So they wanted to take my pictures, but I didn't do anything then. And then I was on a modeling job for like a box covers for some random sexy girl video that was like, not porn of any kind, but just girls dancing around in bikinis and whatever. I wasn't even in the video actually. But they needed a girl for the box cover, and they hired me for the job. And Alexis Vogel was the makeup artist. And she did I'd never had my makeup done before. I always just kind of did lip gloss and mascara, and that was like the extent of it. And so she did the lashes, and I never wore lashes before. She did the lashes and the lip liner and the whole and I remember thinking, God, she's like, wonder what she's doing. And then when I looked in the mirror, I was like, holy shit,
Right.
like, wow, this is a transformation. And it just gave me a lot of confidence. And she was like, you should be in Playboy. And I was like, yeah, well. And so she took a bunch of Polaroids of me, actually nude Polaroids. She said that we need no clothes on. And I was like, okay, whatever. And so Marilyn Gabowski called me the next morning. It was that quick. And I was in the office within the next 48 hours. I was in the office, and they had already given me a contract, and I barely read it. I mean, I skimmed through it. I'm like, what could it possibly say? I'm all like 22 and a half or 23 or whatever. And I was just like, whatever it says, it's yes to me. If all these other girls did it, it was stupid. You should always read your contracts. But nonetheless, yeah, I filled out my whole Playmate thing and did all my stuff. And they got me right into my Playmate shoot. So it was pretty exciting. Although I did wait a year and a half. So they did my Playmate shoot. And then they're like, well, we're going to put you on hold because we don't want you to be January 95. We want you to be January 96. And I was like, oh, I was so depressed. I was like, oh my God. Oh, it's just so low. But it ended up being, the further out you are, the more fresh you are. Right.
Yeah.
And it happened to be a good time because 1996, was my first time being actually to the mansion. Like I was in the guest house, but I never met Hef. So it was New Year's Eve. My issue is the issue 1995 turning 96. As you know, January is the December issue. So it was on all the coffee tables in the mansion. And I show up in my gown, the whole thing. And it was just like, it was like it was like a whole, it couldn't have been more perfect. If I had been the year before, they weren't really doing the parties and stuff as much. I might not have been invited, but this he had opened up. It was, Mel Torme. It was just like the most beautiful party I had ever seen. So for me, it felt like very much like my party, like a party for me or something. And I brought my date, who I didn't end up staying. It was a boyfriend that I ended up breaking up with. He was a mess. And yeah, that was the first time I met Hef. So that was a really exciting time. 1996 was right in the middle of the 90s, coming off of Jenny McCarthy and Anna Nicole Smith and Pamela Anderson. And, there was a lot to live up to. I did not feel worthy many, many times, but I feel like it was a really good time,
I remember you sharing that story with me, and it was just recently, Victoria, that you had to wait a whole year, and I didn't know that. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's like, I would be like,
I
oh,
didn't think it was
I'd
gonna
be
happen.
anxiety ridden.
And then what about the fact that her very first makeup ever is the best in the
Alexis Vogel.
business? Like
Yeah,
the
Alexis
best.
Vogel, and she did my pictorial. And then, so when when you shoot your Playmate headshots or whatever, the black and whites and the whatever, she was sick that day. So there was this other guy that did my makeup and everything. And I remember looking in the mirror going, no, 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 no. This is no, 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 no. This is not going to work. It was so bad. They reshot me and
Oh
she ended up
no.
doing my makeup. So I do have some pictures from both, but it's the weirdest hair. I have a big forehead, and he did this thing where my hair was like, and it was just, the makeup was really like, she made my eyes look like this, and he made my eyes look like little squinty, like I looked really old. I looked really
Yeah.
old when he did my pictures, and but anyway, I was able to redo the photos. The only thing I regret was I didn't understand about hair extensions and all that. And I didn't really have as long as hair as this or as much hair. And I wish I would have figured out hair extensions and had all that, like I wish I had been more
Isn't
current
it
on that.
funny to think like that? Do you ever think like that, Echo, about that just made me think of something, how you said that, because I was so young. I was right before you,
Yeah.
92. So you were not many years after.
Right.
But what's funny when I look back, 91 when I posed, but what's so funny to me is what you just said is things that you wouldn't have you probably ever thought about until you posed for Playboy. But then you look back and you can make comparisons we were talking about. Because I was the same way. I look at mine and I'm like, why didn't I have them soup thing? Because I always had natural curly hair, and it
Yeah.
was
Well, curly
nothing.
hair is harder with extensions.
But I mean, we never did anything. But thinking about that, when you say that, because I've seen your pictorial, I would never think you needed anything. It's
Well, they do
what.
your hair like this. There was one day that I went in, and that was when Pam Anderson was marrying Tommy Lee, and she was all the rage. And like her and Alexis were really super close. And one day I came into the studio and she's like, oh, Victoria, I'm going to put your hair up in a ponytail because I have some of Pam's hair extensions,
Oh,
and I'm
cool.
going to put it. So she did put it in a ponytail. And I remember thinking, this is it, people. This is it.
Oh
This
yeah.
is going to be the best pictures ever. They didn't really use any of those photos, but I remember thinking like, this is it, and whatever. So
It's
what's
funny.
Yeah.
Oh, I was
I
gonna.
was going to say what's funny about all my pictures I've done with Playboy, which is as you have all done thousands and thousands and thousands of photos with Playboy. And it seems as though if you go back and you look at all my pictorials and my centerfold and anything that I've ever been on, they like to print pictures with my eyes closed. So
Really?
80% of all my pictures, my eyes are closed. And
Oh,
and I
wow.
yeah, and I had a complex. I'm like, obviously there's something wrong with my eyes. And
Oh.
I don't know what's wrong with my eyes, but like, I'm like, then after, once he started publishing me, I was like trying to keep my eyes open all the time because I'm like, I'll be damned if you're not gonna do one with my eyes open. But
Oh,
it,
it's because you looked sexy. There was something
Yeah.
smoldering about it, or they wouldn't
I
have.
suppose,
That's
but
so
my eyes were fine. I don't know what was wrong.
gosh.
That's
And
so
Yeah.
was
funny.
it, do
You
you
know,
remember where did you shoot your pictorial?
At Santa Monica at the studio.
Okay.
and
Yeah.
and it was Stephen Wada, right, who shot your centerfold?
I did both. I did Steven Wada and I did Arnie Freytag. Now, I love Arnie, and he did my centerfold, and he's very meticulous.
Yeah.
Like, like he likes you to stay in one spot, and he does this perfect, like he's the lighting guru.
Mhm.
But what happened with me was I was moving around too much, and I think, Marilyn was like, I think we need to put you with Steven with the ring lights so that you can just move around and he'll just move around you. And so he shot my small camera and Arnie did my centerfold. So I did get the best of both worlds because really Arnie is really the master with the centerfolds. So
That's
I was really lucky that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's super interesting and very cool that you were able to shoot with both. And when I interviewed Stephen Wada, he spoke about that, how he was a very different photographer, and
Yep.
him and Marilyn had a very unique and close relationship compared to the
Yep.
other photographers. And you're spot on about Arnie in one position only, and so meticulous about the finest little details of lighting and whatnot. And Stephen hated that. He wanted you to move around. He wanted you
Yep.
to be dynamic. He wanted it to be more natural. And I never knew that. I thought that was really interesting. I assumed that they all shot the same.
Yeah. Well, with the centerfold, as you guys all know, is the only photo in the layout because it's done with a whole different camera where the negative is an 8x10, so it's a very big large format, and they lit it the way that they lit it because at that time they weren't everyone thinks that there was an airbrushing thing going
There
on.
wasn't.
That wasn't true with the centerfold. The centerfold was untouched. Unless it was something major, they would maybe, because one time I had like an eyelash that kind of came off and they're like, oh, I did 1,000 pictures in the same pose, and when they wanted had the eyelash. So they were like, well, we might be able to kind of get rid of that. But that wasn't a time when they were doing digital and all those things. So to do any kind of airbrushing or anything, which they did soften a lot of things on the layout photos, but not on the centerfold. So that's why it looks different. Like it looks almost more crisp or something when you
Yeah.
see it. You're like, you could see every eyelash, every hair, where it's a little bit more not diffused a little bit in
Did
your
you
layout.
cry?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. Good question.
because I call it
You
the
know what?
Civil War camera. I call it the Civil War
I
camera.
cried.
That's what I always call it.
I didn't cry, but I was dating someone at the time, and he and I were dating, and he kind of cheated on me with this girl that he's like, oh, she's going to be in Playboy, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, that's funny. And you know how you go in the office and you see all the girls that are coming up? And I was like, I don't see her in the lineup in the next couple of years. That's weird. She must have shot and then they didn't use her, and
Yeah.
she's bragging about, I mean, how long can you brag about that you're going to be in Playboy and then it never comes out? But he and I got in some argument one morning, and I was on the way to do my small camera and or my whatever it was, my centerfold maybe was that day, and he broke up with me on the way to the studio. And I remember sitting in my car and I was like trying to hold it together or whatever, and like I didn't want to walk in and being upset, but it was obvious that I had been crying. And I sat in the chair, and Alexis came in and she goes, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I said, well, my boyfriend broke up with me. And she was like, great. That's great.
That sounds like
And
her.
Yes,
yeah,
Alexis. I
and she
love
said,
her.
I'll be right back. And she got Marilyn, and Marilyn came in and she turned me around and she put her hands on me and she said, listen, you're going to have so many people that want to be with you. Don't
Yeah.
worry about this. This is a blessing in disguise. He doesn't deserve you. dry those tears. You're about to be on the best ride of your life, and don't let this bother you. And she really, I was thinking, yeah, like I'm going to be in Playboy. Like what, I'm going to have plenty of boys that are going to want to be, that are going to think I'm worthy or beautiful or want to date me or whatever. So then I was like, yeah, you're right. And that, like that relationship ended, and I couldn't have happened at a better time. Who wants to bring along someone that's not going to be happy and supportive for you through that journey, which is life changing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
You were a little older for a Playmate, right? Were you in your
I was
mid-20s?
23.
You're 23. Okay.
I was 23, and by the time I was published, I was going on 25.
Oh, okay.
Our listeners that don't know what she meant when she said small camera, and when she was explaining what the centerfold was shot with these giant Polaroids, it was almost the size exactly of the centerfold. So they would have to be perfectly still, like Victoria was explaining, so that I mean, there wasn't any room for error. It
Mm-mm.
had to be
Yeah, you couldn't
exactly that image. Yeah,
move.
so small camera was just getting out in the field, or as her case, in the studio, but it was just
All the
literally
pictorial.
small, normal camera. Your pictorial was they just always call it small camera, but a lot of people don't know those things. They're like, what do they mean small camera? Or
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good
yeah,
that's a good point.
yeah.
Victoria, you also worked a lot as a bunny, didn't you? And let's tell the audience about the bunny suit coming back, because that also was a very big deal when that occurred. And that was in, what was that, 2000?
It was 97, 98, I
Okay.
want to say. So what happened was, and I didn't know this about Carrie Stevens, but there was, it was, I think she said it was Victoria Silvestead, her, and then one other girl that was really petite. So small, medium, large
Yeah,
bunny costume.
right.
And they were bringing it back. And so they were like the models that would stand in front of Hef, and he would be like, yes, I like it, like it, like it. But when he brought the bunny costume back, because it was so iconic, it's the only non-government uniform patented by the US government, by the way. And
wow,
yeah, and it's very iconic in that, it was originally for the waitresses. And if you were a playmate, you weren't allowed to waitress. And if you were a waitress, you were not a playmate. If you
Right.
became a playmate, you're no longer being a bunny, right? Because they didn't have never wanted the playmates to be waitresses or whatever he was so iconic. So he brought back, all the clubs had closed, and he had wanted to bring it back because it was an icon of Playboy, and very smart of him to do so. And so he fitted myself and Ava Fabian.
Hmm.
So her and I were the only two that had the bunny costume, and we started going out on jobs and doing tours at the mansion and stuff. And it just kind of became like, wow, it became, people were really like, oh my God, the bunny costume is just one of those things. So I opened the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange in my bunny
Oh
costume.
my
Yes,
God.
I'm
How
the only one to do
cool.
that. Yeah, all in the same week. And then I also got a contract when Playboy did the Playboy slot machines. They wanted to hire a bunny to be their spokesmodel, and Playboy was already getting a licensing deal and all that. So I made friends with the executives at Bally Gaming, and Playboy said, listen, we don't want to deal with all the Playmate promotions. We're not making money off of the same way that we usually do off of the job. So you can go and create your own contract separate and apart from Playboy, and you can decide your own contract with them. Whatever you make. We're not taking any part of it. We're already getting the licensing. I did. I made my own contract, and I'm one of the few girls that actually was able to contract myself as a bunny, as a playmate, using the Playboy license outside of Playboy. So I was able to negotiate my own fees and everything else. And so I was their spokesmodel for 4 years, and I traveled all around the world. Everywhere that there was a Playboy slot machine, or they were going in, or wherever it was, I was there, and I was on all the material, and I was on the games, and I was on the billboards, and I was on all their stuff. And that was really, really exciting. And then I kept kind of going to every year I'd go to Europe, and I'd go to Canada, and I'd go all these things. And I started going to the convention. I started being the same bunny every year. And they're like, we love you, Victoria. And then they realized, oh, there's other girls that have a bunny costume. And then that was it. Then they never hired the same girl ever again. It was always new girls. But that's when it started. I don't know if you remember the Friars Club roast.
With
I
Hef,
think
yeah.
Hef, yeah. So Hef So then there was Deanna Brooks, Kelly Monaco, Ava, and myself. We were the 4 girls that were in bunny costumes at that point.
Cool.
And so we went to the Friars Club and we were like hefts, we were the
His
bunnies, we
entourage,
were
yeah.
yeah, we were just like the entourage and whatever. And I believe he may have been, no, I guess he wasn't married to Kimberly at the time because he had a bunch of the girlfriends there and they were making fun of Hef and the girls and, that he had all these girlfriends and whatnot. But yeah, so that's when it started to be like that the Playmates, if you were a Playmate, they started fitting you for a bunny costume. So more and more and more. And then it became almost every girl practically that was working in Playmate promotions was getting a bunny costume because they wanted to be able to offer that. It was becoming, they would rather have a girl in a bunny costume than have a girl, and they would make more money. Playboy would make more money. They could charge more than just a girl showing up and signing her autograph. They really should have shot us in our bunny costumes and used those headshots, but they never did that. But yeah, that's kind of how it started.
That's
So
cool.
that was
That's
that was
some
98. Yeah.
yeah, that's some
Did
great
not know
background.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
background
Yeah.
history on that. Um, I never got to wear the bunny suit during that time, but I also didn't live in LA, so
Yeah, you weren't in LA, so that's
yeah.
probably
But
why.
I did get to wear it the one time for the 60th anniversary, and
Yep.
it was so awesome, but it's so uncomfortable. My God.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, both of you. I think I saw you. Were you on any slot machines in Las Vegas?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
all
was.
of them.
Yeah.
At
So I
one
do
time.
remember.
At one time, not anymore. It's not me on them anymore. It's totally, that was when the reels were like real and
Yeah.
now they're all digital. And there are still Playboy slot machines, but they're few and far between. I don't think it's such a, they must be old or something because
Yeah, I had no idea that you were the one that brought that back from because I
well, I
remember.
mean, I didn't bring it back. I was lucky enough to be chosen to be.
Well, you know what I mean. I mean
Yeah,
that's pretty amazing because
yeah.
it had been probably since the '60s, right? Or
80s. No, it was the 80s. So
okay,
the last club closed in like 1986, 87, somewhere around there, somewhere around Ava's time, Ava and Julie McCullough. So right
okay.
around that time, there was a few clubs left, like New York, and there was the LA club. Um, and they just started shutting down for, I don't remember the reasons or whatever, but yeah, so the 80s were the last clubs. So it had been a good 10, 12 years since anyone had seen a bunny costume
Yeah.
in the wild.
And it was
So
a big hit for sure.
And they
it was
are
a
iconic. There's nothing more. They're
It's a
so
great
yeah.
it's a great costume. Let's face it,
Yeah,
it's
it
timeless,
really is.
like, it looks just as good as it did when it was created way back in the day, like, the cut, the everything is just it's beyond its time?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about the Playboy Extreme team and then you
Ah,
going to do the great race with Danelle Fulta and all of that because that was very cool as well.
are you talking to the Amazing Race I didn't do with her, which is a whole different thing, but we
Oh,
did, the adventure racing, is that what you mean?
yeah, but were you part of the Playboy Extreme team? For you
I
were, right?
was.
And then okay,
Yeah,
so yeah, talk about
yeah.
that. So it's called the Extreme Race?
It was called the Playboy Extreme Team, and we did a thing called the High Tech Adventure Racing.
Okay.
And she went to like Borneo, and she did the ones where she'd travel for days on like 8-day race or whatever. I never did that. We did train for it. We did some heavy training. I mean, we
I
went to
bet.
Florida. We're training. It was Deanne. It was. I mean, I can't like there was so many girls. I can't. Jennifer Lavoie, Yulrika Erickson, Deborah Driggs. So we were training all the time. We got a bike, we got one of the mountain bikes. We got a lot of great equipment. I mean, Danelle really like took care of us. So we got all this great equipment and we did do a high tech adventure race. And I believe it was, I don't know how many teams it was, but we came in way before like many it was a 8-hour race, and so it's teams of 3, so it was me, Jennifer Lavoie, and oh my gosh, I'm forgetting her name now, but anyways, it was a 3 of us, and so it was 2 petite girls and me. So when you're the big person, you're the mule, so I was the mule, so I'm the one that carries everything. I carry the girls, I carry the bikes, I carry the stuff,
Oh,
I do all the
Wow.
heavy lifting because
Oh,
like, yeah, because
strong.
I'm the strong one, so they're
Yeah.
like, I'm the one that has to take on that role. So the race was, yeah, it was really, really fun, and we beat all these men's teams that looked like they were in
yes.
really good shape. And of course, they all thought these girls, like, whatever. And some teams didn't even finish. Like, they couldn't even finish, and we finished and we did great. And we toured all over. We had a volleyball team. We had a snowboarding team. And the snowboarding team was super exciting. I got a snowboard. I got all the outfits. I went and we're doing signing my name, whatever. When it came to get on the slopes on the snowboard, no, I couldn't do it. I couldn't.
And Danelle had approached me about being on the team, and my daughter was so little, I couldn't leave her. She was like 2, and I'm like, I would hinder you guys. I could have been on that team.
It was
and
fun.
We could have been on the team
I was a snowboarder. I stopped snowboarding when I married my husband because anyway, but I used to snowboard. I would have helped your team.
Yeah,
Corinna would have pulled it together.
I just couldn't do it. I tried for many years. Even after I did have the Playboy snowboard, there was only 200 of them made by this hazmat company, and I actually sold the board and the boots and all the stuff. I sold it to Ulrika Erickson's son. His name's Nigel, so he has my Playboy snowboard, which he loves. I saved it for my daughter. Like, I saved it for my child. When I had a child, I thought, oh, I'll give it to my child or whatever. And she became a skier, and she's like, I don't want that thing. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll just, I'll sell it. And then when I sold it, she's like, do you still have that snowboard? And I'm like, I sold it. She goes, why would you do that? And I'm like, gosh, she's waited. Yeah.
Have you talked to Danelle?
I haven't talked to her in a little while. It's been a couple months or something, but I try to check in with her every now and again. I think her and her husband are in Chicago, and she's always been incredible, and she did such a good job with that.
Yeah, that was such an incredible endeavor
So
that she put together. I was a part of the Playboy Extreme team, but I did not do any of those big races. But I mean, I learned how to rock climb, and we were doing, mountain biking and like trekking, doing all kinds of stuff. It was super, super cool. I would love to have Danelle on the show and talk about all of that, because I was
you should. Well, Ava and I got hired on a job to go out in I don't know if it's deep sea fishing or whatever, but we went out on a chartered boat, left from Ventura, and I don't know why they wanted us there, but they were fishing and doing all this stuff, and like they were gutting the fish, and we were doing, and I'm thinking, what an odd job to have a bunch of roommates on in our little sundresses and gutting fish and putting and dealing with we both were like, by the end we're just like seasick and the whole nine, but we did actually have a really good time. But I always thought, what a bizarre job to go on, so
yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, that's funny that you said that, Victoria, because I think about, different promotions that we would go on, and there were some real random ones that I was hired for, and like real random locations, random events. And basically it was anybody could call and hire a playmate to come to their event, and you got paid is what it was.
For any reason. Yeah, any reason. I got to
truck shows were fun. I mean, yeah.
I didn't do that, but I did get to shoot the puck at the Blackhawks game. From half court. Yeah, I got to do that, and nobody had made it in over a year. So when I went, I'm a playmate and whatever, and of course nobody thought I was going to make it. And before I went up, they let me go down in the locker room, and I was like, all the team was there, and they're like, woo, and I was like, hey, anybody want to like show me how to hold a hockey stick so I just don't look stupid? Like, no intention that I'm ever going to make it, because the slit is like this big,
right?
So you don't get the whole thing, you just get one little, because it's $50,000 to some charity or whatever, and nobody had made it in a long time. A bunch of celebrities have shot the puck. So he said, I'll show you. So we were underneath the tunnels or whatever, and he was showing me how to do the hockey and whatever. And I said, I think I'm good as long as I just hit the puck and it's like I don't miss or whatever. He's like, you'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Nobody ever makes it. And if you would not believe, I went out there in my leather pants and my high heel boots, and I shot the puck and I made it. And the whole crowd was like, what? I thought, oh my God, thank God.
That is incredible.
It was so good. I felt like such a hero. I was like, oh my God, I just felt like that was divine intervention. Like, oh yeah, fuck you people. You think that she can't.
Yeah,
and I still have the puck. So
that's so awesome. See, and those things
fun.
are so special.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fun,
that's
fun,
like
fun
once in a
stories.
lifetime. Who can say that they did that? Seriously.
You know,
I you know what's funny is I never thought that I worked. I thought all the other girls were working so much more than me. But there was a time I was working 3 days a week. So I was on a plane, did the job, come back a day, get on a plane, come back, did whatever, tours at the mansion all the time, constantly all the time, working at the mansion all the time. And yeah, so it was just like I was making a lot of money. I just figured all the other girls must be working 10 times more than me, like,
no, you
but when I look
definitely
back,
worked a lot. I know that
I
you were
worked a
always
lot for a good, yeah, for a good little stretch of time. I worked a lot. And then when my art kicked in, I just felt like, then that started to be in a big part of like what I was doing. And so I was really busy there for 2 decades. I feel like I was just
Yeah.
didn't stop. Yeah, until I had.
Yeah, I ended when you started, I think, looking back. But then I still
No,
worked.
you
I
you
bet
you
you I worked in promotions with you as
Yeah, you
well.
worked a bunch with me. Yeah, you worked actually
Yeah.
quite a few.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all worked together. We did a bunch of things for the big conventions in Vegas, and
the
you
golf
guys also,
tournament.
both of you did the Wet and Wild
Yeah. Oh
when we
yeah.
would all had the silver bikinis or the other bikinis we
Yeah.
would wear.
Yeah.
Because I have pictures of you guys, and yeah, I remember those. We did a bunch of those. I think Echo. I think I did a thing on the surfboard where we took the Polaroid.
Yeah. Yeah.
You were on one of
Yeah.
those with me. I
Yeah.
still have. Yeah, those were.
I'll have to pull that up and put that here in the slideshow. For our audience, let's tell them what Wet and Wild was.
Yeah,
And
the best.
this was in the 90s, and there was a couple really huge events that like there probably was like 20 or 30 playmates at a time that would attend these events, and it
30.
was the big convention in Vegas. What was it called? It was
It was
What
the
was
Wet and Wild Water Park
Well, it
in
was
yeah,
the
but it was
video
it was
convention,
a
whatever
video
the video.
Playboy video.
convention.
Oh gosh,
and
what
then
is that
and then
called?
they had the huge party at the Wet and Wild water
You had to
park.
get invited. You had to get invited.
Yeah,
So basically, the Wet and Wild, they'd rent out the entire, which the park isn't there anymore,
it
but
was
they'd rent
private.
out the entire water slide park, which was an epic park.
So fun.
And they had all of us, they had about 25 to 30 playmates, all dressed in the same bikini. We always
Mhm.
had, all of us had the same bikini
Lots of
on.
They
celebrities.
shuttle us
Lots
over.
of
There was the
celebrities.
whole makeup team for each of us.
I mean, it was yeah, we weren't going on the rides and stuff. We were just walking around. And so you had to be invited, and it was all kinds of celebrities, and then it was everybody that they wanted to schmooze from the convention. So
Yes.
it was like everybody wanted to get in, and it was,
Tons of
and of course it was
celebrities.
everybody was drinking and in the, like doing all this stuff. It
You
was
didn't ride on the rides, Victoria?
Karina and
I did
I went with
Oh, we went
Pauly
right. That's what we
Shore.
did. Dear Stuka. We
I
would
didn't
do
want
the
to mess up my
bonsai
hair.
bargain and laugh so hard.
I
Oh
didn't
my
want to have
God.
wet hair. I didn't want to get my hair wet. I didn't want to get my lashes wet, and I didn't want to. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't
Way
want to.
too professional. Wait, I'm just
This
kidding.
was too vain. I just was like, no. Uh,
I don't picture you like that. Like you don't seem like you would have
Yeah,
been
like I feel like she would
worried
have
about
dove
that. When I
in
think
like
of
right
you,
away.
just
Like
knowing
let's get
you,
in the water.
you know what I was so
yeah, we
worried
didn't
about? I
care.
just wanted to live up to. I always felt a little insecure about like I wasn't as pretty as the other girls and whatever. And I just wanted to make sure and live up to my. I took the job very seriously. Like Pat Lacey and everybody always worked me because I never drank. I
Right.
didn't drink for like
I
early on in the 90s. I drank a little bit, and then I decided I don't want to drink anymore. So I didn't drink, didn't smoke, wasn't doing drugs. So I was just like, I was very like, I wanted to be as preserved as possible and
Mhm.
reserved as possible because I just was very serious about, and probably I wasn't as fun as some of the other girls, honestly, because I think when you get hired on a job, they expect the girls to be a little bit more like, I don't think I was as friendly as they probably wanted me to be. I was a little bit more conservative,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, they could count on me that I wasn't leaving drunk or anything. I wasn't
yeah,
all
no.
out of my
Well, I
shoes.
didn't drink during the promotions. We weren't supposed to. Pat
I know,
Lacey
but a
was
lot
I
of girls
did.
still did.
in
A
trouble.
lot of girls.
That goes on, and she's like, I did.
I mean, there was a letter that went out at one point that was basically like, listen,
I have it. Bill
you
Farley wrote it, and I'll actually send the email to you. And I
And it
found
was
it
because of
recently
Echo.
no, it
reprimanding
was because of
all of
Barbara.
them.
was because of Echo and Barbara.
No,
Oh my
it
God.
wasn't.
I
It wasn't me and Barbara. It was this other chick. But yeah, I could understand you saying that. But no, it wasn't Barbara. But yeah, it was a 2-page reprimand, and then they stopped all drinking at the promotions. Or like, damn it, that's no fun.
Son of a.
That's
So
hysterical.
fun. But those were some really, really fun memories.
It doesn't get
Those
any better than that. Yeah.
No,
We're getting
No.
paid all this money and we're like the star of the show, but not only that, we're doing all these really fun we're getting treated, like movie stars or something. We were just
totally,
treated like,
totally.
At
everything
5-star
was first class.
restaurants, all of it, like the
All the
whole works.
food. Yeah. People
Yeah.
wanted to take us shopping all the time. And like Vegas was always fun when the Playboy Club opened. George Maloof used to hire us to come and just sit with the high rollers, and he would give us $1,000 of chips to play with. But instead of playing with the chips, a lot of us would like sit with the high roller, and the high roller would be like, "Oh, I'll give you." Our chips were down our top, and then they would give us $100 chip. I would always put my chip on top of whatever they were playing, so I would just play with these professional people, and then I would just I would make thousands of dollars
Oh, wow.
sitting there with these high rollers. And then when they're over, it's like, okay, bye, going back to my room, ordering my shrimp cocktail and doing whatever, like that was the really, really, really fun times. And fun fact, when the Playboy Club opened at the Palms, everybody Hef went with the girl, Holly, Bridget, and Kendra, and everybody got a key, and it had the October 6th, 2006 date engraved on the key, and I gave birth that day to my daughter.
Aww.
And so they all called me and said, congratulations, yes, I was really close with them at the time. And when everybody got back, and I came to the mansion for the first time, Hef gave me his key because my daughter's birthday was on it. So he gave me his key. Yeah.
That
So
gives me goosebumps. Like, how thoughtful of him, knowing that date is so special, and they all were wishing you were there. Oh.
I know, it was so sweet. So yeah.
Didn't the girls throw you a baby shower as well?
They did for it was on the Girls Next Door. So Mary O'Connor threw me a baby shower, the spa threw me a baby shower, and then Hef and Holly threw me a baby shower.
Awesome.
That was filmed on the Girls Next Door. I had so much baby stuff. I had there wasn't anything that I needed. I was like, this is amazing. Like, I got stuff.
Exactly.
Holly and Bridget gave me they both gave me a bunch of beautiful things that I still have to this day. They're in a keepsake box. I kept a lot of it for Treese. So they gave me really beautiful, thoughtful things. And I don't know if you realize, but Hef and Holly were Treese's godparents.
No.
So when Holly broke up with, or when whoever broke up with who, and she wasn't around anymore, Hef still took it very seriously that Treese was his goddaughter, and he got her gifts for Christmas, and he was always very sweet with her. And she would come into the mansion, and she would go up to his chair, and they would have this conversation. She's 3 and 4 and 5, whatever it was, and she would like to sit with him. She sat on his lap a bunch of times. She just was like, why not? She was not shy at all. She loved Hef, and Hef loved her, and she was always welcome to the mansion. I mean, we would go to the zoo and go in the pool, and she learned how to swim in the pool, and she was always, all the butlers knew her, and she was allowed to go into the kitchen. I was not. She was allowed to go and eat Hef's chocolate cake, so it was a really sweet time. And they did do an episode where they babysat her. I don't know if you ever saw that episode, but they take her and they babysit her and they do whatever, and she's on his bed, and it was a very cute episode. And when they gave her back to me, her diaper was on backwards, like they were trying to figure out, because she wanted to have a baby, if you remember, and so she was like, trying to
I didn't watch all of those. Now I want to go find that.
Super,
funny.
Super cute. Yeah, Hef called Treese because she had the curls. And she was acting. He was like, she's going to be the Shirley Temple. She's the next Shirley Temple of our time. And he was really sweet about it and whatever. But she didn't stay acting.
That's so awesome. And I was going to actually segue into that because you were very, very close with Hef and with Mary.
Mary, especially.
And you
Yeah.
really, got to experience that, if not on the daily, but you were at the mansion all the time,
I
and
was yeah,
saw Hef through, the girls
everything,
next
yeah.
door,
Mhm.
Holly, and then Crystal, and all of that.
I don't know if I like Hef did so many amazing nice things to me, but I tell everybody I don't think I was so special. I think he did a lot of nice things for a lot of people. I
Hmm.
think I felt close to him because I was there and because he did so many nice things, but I don't think I was as close to him as some of the other girls, but certainly I felt like he really cared about me, and he, of course, granted me the licensing contract for my art, which launched my art career. So which was all part of the plan when I was 9 years old, right? I was going to become a
Yeah.
Playboy bunny and an artist. And so he made all my dreams come true. I mean, I didn't care about the modeling. I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to be a famous artist and sell in galleries. And because of him and because of that licensing, he gave me a huge leg up, and it did launch my art career. So I
Well,
keep,
with
you
that
know,
said, let's go into the Rogue Bunnies and how that even manifested. And I mean, particularly creating NFTs. I mean, you obviously had your finger on the pulse of what was happening in that industry and understood the crypto market, et cetera, and understood what an NFT was. So talk about that and kind of how much time it took to, bring that to fruition. And
Well, in 2017, after Hef passed away, I had a friend that was an artist, and like him being gone was like a whole, like, I didn't have the licensing anymore. I was doing my art, whatever. But a friend said, "You got to meet me at the mall. I have this new technology for artists. It's the wave of the future. You have to get on it, ground floor." So I met with him, and he introduced me to NFTs, crypto kitty wallets, all this stuff. And I remember thinking, this is the dumbest idea. How could this be the next thing that artists are going to do? I was so disappointed. I was like, why would he waste? I was mad at him. And I remember going home and I remember thinking about it. And like something told me, the things that I think are those stupidest ideas or dumb end up being like really great. Or like, I think, oh, that person's never going to be a famous whoever. We meet people early on and then they become Eminem or they become, and I'm always wrong about these things. And so I thought, you know what, I should probably give it another try. So I called him. I said, listen, are you willing to talk to me again? So from 2017 to 2020, we would meet every 4 to 6 months, and we would talk. He set me up with wallets. He was educating me on NFTs. And right around 2020, I didn't want to get my feet wet because I still was wrapping my head around it. I didn't know how to I didn't know how to apply it to my art really,
right.
or how to create a career around it. But in 2020, this thing called Clubhouse, which was kind of an app that was, people could gather and they could talk in rooms. It was like an audio thing. It wasn't a visual thing. And everything was about NFTs and blockchain and all these things. And you could get in all these rooms where people were talking about it and moving and shaking. And so I just had that on for 24 hours a day. I would just listen, listen, listen. I'd go to sleep to it. I started asking questions. I started getting to know people. And so I thought, oh, I'm going to launch like an NFT art career for myself because galleries were, I don't know, just things were kind of waning. And then COVID happened, and then all the galleries shut down. I wasn't able to sell anywhere, and I was like, I really got to get into this. And so I started minting NFTs off of my art, and it just wasn't it was not doing anything for me. I just wasn't. I had sold a couple, but I didn't see any future. I was like, this isn't a big deal. And then Playboy started in this whole other direction with their giving, like a different direction. Let's just say, I'm not going to go too far into it, but we all know they went into this other direction, and the legacy of what a Playmate was at stake, in my
Hmm.
opinion.
Hmm.
And so I thought, I can't, like, I'm not going to, this is not okay with me as a Playmate. So I thought it was time to create a brand separate and apart from Playboy using blockchain technology and gathering as many of my favorite beautiful Playmate sisters as I could to create a new brand. And not that we're don't like Playboy and don't want to be associated with him, but something that was really about us and owning our IP and being able to basically chart the waters of how we wanted to engage with our fans, create communities, create content, own our content, own our IP, all of that. And so that was the idea around it. And so that's where I started the company GATEFOLD Labs, and I created Rogue Bunnies. We are Rogue Bunnies. We went rogue. And so I have 70 girls under contract right now, Playmates, Legacy Playmates. And we call them
70?
Legacy Playmates. 70.
That's
Yeah.
a lot. Wow,
Wow.
It's a
Victoria.
lot. I know.
Congratulations.
I
Wow.
don't know how I did it. It was incredible. So like it's ebbed and flowed, it was like we got really hot and then it gets quiet and then it gets really hot. I mean, the crypto market is all over the place. There's no rules. People that say they're an expert in crypto and NFTs, there's nobody you can have good experience, but it is not something, it's a very difficult business because it does ebb and flow and things change and new technologies and different applications for how you create tokens and NFTs and all the things and what people want to pay for. At one time everything was selling. If you minted an NFT, someone was going to buy it, but now it's so saturated. You could put out stuff, no one ever sees it or finds it. So you have to be really we come from a place of marketing,
Mhm.
PR, promoting, we have an understanding of all this, and so that's been a huge base for me. And not only um, do I have the relationships with the girls, but because I did a job from 2010 to 2014 where I did game design and animation, so I learned how to do animation and digital art and all the
Wow.
things. And so I took that and I married that with my art, which was perfect for the NFTs. So I was able to basically launch the brand and the company off of just my tools that I had, which was a big deal because it's very expensive to hire artists and this and that and all these things. So I was able to wear a lot of hats, and I do have a great team now, but able to launch this. But I wouldn't have been able to do it without all the support of all of you ladies and the other ladies that are on the team. And there's so much more to go. It's evolved into something so much bigger than I had anticipated. And we're still going, and we're still there's a roadmap. There's things that are happening, and
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's like
yeah, we have
you
a great
just barely
community.
like to touch the tip of the iceberg for sure on
Yeah,
that. And I'm so excited to be on board with it. I know we all are. And
I
I want to
know. Well, you were
applaud
on
you.
and then you were off,
Yeah.
and I was
And then I'm back. No, but
yeah.
we applaud you, Victoria. I mean, you're crushing it. I love everything that you're up to. You're just so talented and creative, and bravo to you. Seriously, hats off.
Thanks. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it's a lot of work, and none of us have gotten rich off of it yet. We've done fairly well, but it's a very expensive venture. It
Yeah.
takes a lot of money to keep a team and keep it going, and all this technology is very expensive. And there's a lot of things that I didn't know that I had to learn, and so that's kind of it's definitely a learning curve. There's still much more that I don't know that I don't even know yet. Like I'm learning stuff that I didn't know I needed to know. So I'm always like, I always think I have a handle on it. And then I'm like, gosh, I really need to. So I'm in a learning, which is part of the reason why I love it so much, because I love a good challenge. But I'm learning all the time. I'm learning. I can always find something new to learn or to research or, whatever. And there's lots of people in this space that are, very happy to give you their input and their experience and whatever. So it's been really eye-opening and great. And it's also been really great to have access to all the playmates that I knew before, all the girls that I knew and that I worked with and girls that I hadn't even worked with, and to kind of be in contact again. And we've
Yeah.
gotten together several times for some events that we've thrown, and you guys were at the last event, and it was really nice to see everybody together. And it's a sisterhood that no matter how much time has passed or how long you've known someone or not known someone, or even if you've never met one of the playmates, you have an automatic bond that nobody else could understand besides
Hmm.
a playmate. And between Marilyn Monroe and Hugh Hefner's death, there's less than 1,000 playmates published. So it's a very small sorority. It's a very exclusive club to be in. And once a playmate, always a playmate. So I subscribe to
Amen to that, sister.
Yes. Yes.
Exactly.
And I'm so excited also. I still have to introduce you to my friend Niall with Technotainment, but I'm telling you, it blows my mind. Like Echo said, where you really are brilliant, but
well, I don't know about that,
and
but
this is another no, Hef knew how to pick them. We always say that there's something so spectacular and special, and it's funny because earlier you said, what did you say that used to feel insecure, like you wanted to measure up to a
Yeah,
standard.
live
You
up to it.
are. It's like I laughed so hard at looking at, especially, oh my gosh, you're holding up those photos. You were one of the most, beautiful
Aw.
of the playmates, but it it's a special special club, but you're also a very special person. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, of course you were going to end up in rubbing shoulders with the people that I think of you saying Hef was your outlet to art, or and you had that vision, and look how it
He's an
happened.
artist. He was an artist and
Yeah.
he
Oh
appreciated
yeah.
art. He was a cartoon artist and he loved
Yes.
art. Of course, he collected all that art. But,
He saw your talent.
Hef used to always say, I don't want you to be a playmate and just stay a playmate. Like he was not, he wanted you to move on to
Yeah.
something else. He wanted you to use the playmate experience to propel yourself into whatever it is that you wanted. And like there's a lot of people that would not want you to be so successful. They'd be jealous, they'd be whatever. Hef wanted to give and give and give. He wanted the girls to do the best that they could, because if they did really well, of course, it's going to come back to, well, Hugh Hefner,
Yeah.
because of Hef, because of Playboy, they were star makers, they made
Mhm.
girls into, from the girl next door into this glamorous, iconic figure. And so, he did want it to be a launching pad.
Yeah.
So I did want to use my experience to the fullest and try to get as far as I could, is as many doors as I could knock down, saying I'm a playmate, I'm with Playboy, 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 Playboy. And it seems so weird to think that that's how you're getting in the door, but honestly, at the time, and the 90s were the best time for that.
Oh yeah.
When you were a playmate
Oh
in the
yeah.
90s, that was gold.
And you
It
carried around your
faded.
business
Well, you're
cards.
the late
Yeah.
90s, as
Yeah,
far as, and then television,
Yep.
like the girls next
yeah.
door. That is what took it to the next level when it came to, I think, like with your art, it was a different era, where it was the 90s and there was nothing like the 90s. I mean, look at you, had all of your beautiful pop art in the Palms Casino,
Yeah.
in the, play it, those things are pretty spectacular. That must have felt good. How, I've never asked you, how did that feel? Was that the first time you had anything in an exhibit, or had you already?
No, I was so when I got the Playboy licensing, I did a whole bunch of iconic Playboy imagery. Oil on canvas. I did oil on canvas, and I didn't do nudes. I did girls in the bunny costume. I did Hef in front of the airplane. I did stuff that seemed like nostalgic. And I had a art agent at the time, and I was getting in galleries around the world. And so we got together with George Maloof and made a deal with him, and they used a bunch of my, when they were promoting Playboy, was, they were in constant promotion of Playboy being at the Palms, but they were using my artwork all around the casino. Behind the front desk was my artwork, and like things like that. And I wanted them to buy the artwork and have it on permanent display, but they ended up just kind of leasing it, kind of a thing. And so I did get it back, but I did ended up selling it all. But yeah, and there was a time where there was it Christie's or Sotheby's that was going around? They were selling Playboy art, and it was at the Palms. And I was at the Palms. I was in my bunny costume. I was working for the Extreme team. I was working in my bunny costume. I was working the Christie's auction, selling the Playboy art. But in the next ballroom, I had scheduled for the Victoria Fuller Playboy art, and I was on the jumbotron outside. I was in the pop tents in the restaurant. I was in the elevator. So it was like everything, because I was a combo of everything that was going on. And it just felt like Victoria. I just felt like I was everywhere. And yeah, so it was that particular weekend was like really epic for me, because I was just like, ooh, this is really weird. Because when I asked George, we asked him, can we get on the pop tents? Can we make them on all the tables, on the cocktail tables? Can we get in the elevator? And he's like, yeah, wherever you want,
How
and usually
fun.
they charge big money for that.
Yeah.
But because it was Playboy and they had to deal with Playboy, it was all about Playboy. So they were so generous to
Oh
just give
yeah.
it to us for free. So yeah, it was a really lucky time. I mean,
So
that's what I mean by
oh yeah.
Playboy knocking down doors. Even in the art world, it was a big splash.
Do you still talk to George?
I haven't talked to him in a really long time. He wrote me a beautiful letter after I did that. And he said, I gave him a piece of artwork that I did. It had the palms on it. It was a bunny money and it had the palms logo and everything on it. And he's like, if you ever need anything, is my phone number. And like, I think you're great. And just let me know. But no, I should have stayed in touch with him. But, as he knows, he doesn't own the palms anymore.
Yeah.
So, and they took that bunny down off of the building. That was a sad. I always wonder what they did with it. Like, where did it go? Who has it? Where's it
Yeah.
seen?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they still have a Hugh Hefner suite.
Yeah.
So they still have that, and it has Playboy
I
stuff.
wonder if they just have it stored somewhere there. I would go try to find it. We're on the hunt. If anyone's listening to this, we're looking for a piece of Victoria's art.
No, it wasn't my. No, it
the
wasn't my
bunny.
art.
The bunny head
It
on
was
the building,
the
on the
logo
palm.
that was on the side of the.
You're the one in Vegas, Corinna. You go on that hunt for Alibi. Go find the bunny from the palm.
Exactly. Yes, Alibi.
It has to be 20 feet tall. This logo, bunny logo, that was on the side of the building. Remember?
Oh wow! Oh yeah, now I do. Yes, because there was.
You could see it from miles away.
Yeah.
It was seriously on one of the rooms.
It was on the tower. It was just on the side of the tower, way up high.
They called it the Playboy Tower.
Yeah, the Playboy Tower.
Playboy Tower.
Yep. Where is it? Where's that bunny?
Yeah.
Let's find it.
Yes.
All right, sweetie. So we're gonna wrap up the show. We like to end the show with asking 2 questions, and it's always really interesting to hear everybody's answer. They're all different and they're all great. 3 words that define Hugh Hefner to you. What are they?
Iconic, generous, and witty. He was very funny.
Yeah. I love that. I don't know if I've heard witty yet. Thinking about
No, that's the first time.
Yeah.
That's the first witty. Yeah.
I like that. Okay. I don't know if you had the chance to see Hef before he died. I know that everybody was cut off the list. So, okay, so here we go. Had you had the opportunity to speak to him before he passed or in memoriam, what would you like to say?
Oh, I would just give him a big hug and thank him and just tell him how much he's been such an instrument in my life, for everything wonderful that's happened to me was because of him. And yeah, he changed my life. I would just really tell him I love him, He was an easy person to love. Give him a hug, tell him you love him.
Yeah.
And I saw him a week before he passed away, so I saw him just right before. Yeah.
Oh, good. At least you got to see him. I love that.
I did. And I gave him a hug and I told him I loved him and yeah.
Aw, very good. All right. Well, thank you so much, Victoria. I'm so happy we finally were able to get you on the show. To our audience, please follow Victoria and everything she's up to at the Rogue Bunnies. There's, like she said, so much more that will be coming out and evolving.
So much more happening.
An ever-evolving project, basically. Corinna and I are part of it, as well as 70 other Playmates.
We're going to try to be there end of May for an event, so keep your eyes and ears peeled.
Yeah. Again, please like, subscribe, and follow the Bunny Chronicles podcast on YouTube, as well as Bunny Chronicles podcast on Instagram, our Facebook page. We love you. We appreciate. We could not do this without you, and we are just in complete gratitude and awe of our ever-growing audience. And people love what we're up to. They love the history, and we promise to keep delivering it to you.
Yay.
All right.
Love you, ladies. Love my Playmate sisters. My Playmate sisters.
I love you, girls. Okay. Catch you next time.
Thanks, Victoria.
Thank you.